So good morning. So today then we're going to be tackling another question. I'm ably joined by the incredible Neetu Choudhary today. We've got a fantastic question for you. So let's just remind ourselves about what the question is first of all. So we're talking primarily around inclusion today. So Neetu and I both work in the UAE. So the question is, as far as inclusion is concerned, are we doing everything in our power to provide fair opportunities for everyone who we kind of work with? So really, really interesting. So first of all, welcome to the Weird Human podcast, Neetu. What are your early thoughts on that question?
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I love this question because everyone is talking about like diversity and inclusion and they want it. But we forget that we are human being and all decisions are made at this here, the subconscious level. We just try to justify what decision our brain has already made. So diversity, our brain perceives as a threat to the physical body. But the inclusion, which is the most difficult thing, it is a threat to our inner body, our subconscious mind. And until we address that, we won't be able to have the inclusion. Diversity is much easier. It's a number game. We can have KPI, we can recruit different kind of people from different region, different orientation and all. But inclusion is the most challenging. And I think that's exactly where the organizations are stuck now. They have hired people from different background, but now their challenge is how to have inclusion.
I think we miss out on talent. So a very, very simple example for me is I run kind of global inductions, and I've been doing it for most of my career, to be honest with you. And I suppose and this definitely the last kind of 15, 16 years, even before that, when I've worked internationally, one of the things that always fascinates me is that when I'm running inductions, sometimes it's 2 or 3 a week. So when I work for P&O, often almost every port we came into, we were doing a new induction, which was quite fascinating. So there would be new people coming onto the ship, and we'd be, but also we're all different organizations that I've worked for. We often get involved in induction. We have incredibly diverse team members, workforces. But what's particularly peculiar for me, and what is a big concern for me, is that on that first day, everyone's obviously bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. It's the beginning of a new adventure for them, wherever they are. What they tend to do is gravitate towards their own nationality. So I'll see the Brits in one corner of the room. I'll see the Filipinos in another corner of the room. I'll see the Indians in another corner of the room. My Pakistani friends will be totally away from the Indian friends. It's all very, very strange. So they're kind of like basing it on looks. And I think that's a real challenge, because when we are looking at talented human beings, we obviously want to have diverse workforces because our customer is diverse. So how do we get people kind of like out of their comfort zone, out of sort of like gravitating towards people like them, and start encouraging them to look at other populations, other people who may be a little bit different to them, but actually could add massive value to the organization that they're working for?
I love this question because recently when I conducted a training and intentionally I asked list around 50, 60 people were there. I asked list of the name, nationality, their role, different things. And I created 10 teams to make sure that each team has different nationality, different age group, different gender, different departments. Most of departments were HR and admin. But when everyone came to my venue and when they saw their names, they just simply ignored it and they went on the seats wherever they wanted to sit. With what exactly you said is same thing. Like the each country, actually the each table became like one country table, and that was quite strange. When I asked them 3 times and they resisted, they gave a number of excuses, but they resisted. And then after that I left it. The reason is that it is not easy to change because our brain is perceiving anybody who's not like me as a threat. For example, if I'm a brown person and any white or black or any other person comes, the first thought comes in my subconscious mind that that person is threat. To understand this, we need to go back 7 million years. How our evolution started. The first human being walked 7 million years back. When, if you see, the human is the most fragile and weak animal among all animal kingdom, right? We can't walk fast. We are not strongest. We are not tallest. We are not the best swimmers. We are not the best like runner. If we take all animals, we are the worst among all. So For us, the only way of surviving was that we tribe with each other. We create our own tribe and we work together. Then only. That's how our brain is evolved for so many years. Now, suddenly, in the last 100 years or last 10 years, if we are talking about, accept the person who doesn't like you. Maybe physically we are accepting, our brain is not ready to accept because brain is not updated as fast as we are trying to update our technology or the work environment. So that's the biggest challenge, that brain still thinks anybody who's not like me, from different faith, who looks different, who has different preferences, is threat for me. I'll give another simple example. Like we are vegetarians and one of our family friend is non-vegetarian. Now whenever we invite them for any picnic or anything, they give some or the other reason why they don't join. And it's such a small thing, we are from same country, everything is same except the eating habits. Even for these small things, that there are small groups are formed. So we don't even realize it, how our tribes are evolved and how our brain is thinking. And these are main reason that why people feel comfortable. Indians like to sit where all Indians are there because it has few things. The first thing is like likes like. If somebody is like me, I like them. It gives me physical security. It gives me emotional safety. It gives me security that I don't have to be feared because that person thinks exactly like me. I am together with my own tribe, so I'm more safe. I have an identity. Now, that's another big thing. People attach their identity from their origin, whether it's a country, it's faith, it's color, it's rituals, anything. So, identity is another thing. And people feel confident when they are with somebody who's like them. So, these are the challenges
Do you
for.
think it comes from? Because I remember that I run some really interesting, sort of, particularly for executives, people coming into different countries where I've worked. Often I get asked whether I could do some kind of, cultural kind of onboarding. And I think one of the big challenges with that, I remember, and there's a one particular event when I was doing the my kind of cultural onboarding was I was working with a very, 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 very diverse group, but two of the individuals actually came from Bangladesh. It was quite fascinating, for quite senior leaders, and they basically both came from Bangladesh. And at the beginning, they were very fun, and we're slightly challenging, and maybe a little bit. It's more of a kind of an icebreaker. But we asked them to work individually. So we asked the entire group to work individually, and to think of 4 words that would basically describe their culture. So often, if I was going to describe my kind of culture, I'm English. I'm from Dorset, so I'm kind of south coast of the UK. So I suppose I would say definitely inclusive. It's about I'm quite liberal. I quite like a good time. I think people from that part. And I think we're quite hardworking. I think that's basically the 4 kind of words that I would use to describe people from Dorset in the UK, in England, where I'm from. And it was fascinating. So different people in the group were having the same experience, and they were kind of like talking about their country and kind of where they were from and kind of what their values were, their sort of 4 values were. And then, of course, it got to my 2 friends from Bangladesh. And it transpired that they were only about 2 or 3 miles apart. Their villages or their towns in Bangladesh were only about 2 or 3 miles apart. So one person from Bangladesh, the first man, stood up and he actually started to explain what he believed was the right thing, his values were for his village or his town. And it absolutely ended up in a massive argument, because the man who was only living 4 miles away from the first man fundamentally disagreed about what the values were. So I think that's where the challenge is. I think sometimes we think that Bangladeshis are like this, or Filipinos are like this, or English people are like that, and that's really not true. And for me, I always work on this very simple kind of pyramid, and that pyramid really looks at, there's kind of 4 levels to the pyramid for me. I think we get caught up in what I would call the artifact. So I look at, and the first thing when I look at Neetu, the first thing I see, the obvious difference between you and me, here you are, hello, touch, 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 touch. But the first thing is that you're a lady and I'm a man. Yeah. So there's kind of fundamental differences there. So the way that we're experiencing the world as a man or as a woman is going to be very, very different, right? So that's the first thing. That's a major artifact. We also look at the age of the person in front of us. So I'm an old kind of graying, sort of balding chap. You're, a lot younger than I am. So that puts us into a different category. Clearly, we come from different backgrounds and different, we have different color skin. We sound different. We have different kind of like, we're dressing very, very differently. So these are kind of all artifacts. I might be sitting here wearing like an England cricket shirt, go the Ashes. So that immediately kind of like splits me from any Australian friends who are listening at the moment, because, although you're 2-1 up, maybe England might come back and sort of win the Ashes. You never know. We've got it all crossed for the England team. But so we, if I'm wearing an England cricket shirt or I'm wearing a Chelsea football shirt, immediately you start to judge me on the grounds of what you think a Chelsea supporter or a white male greying old man might think, right? So this is very, very, very dangerous for me, Neetu, because when I'm using my artifacts as a point of reference, and I'm saying, well, unless you're a kind of a white, aging male with kind of grey balding hair who supports Chelsea, I'm probably not going to like you. That's very, very, very narrow view. Often we know that artifacts really kind of like drive or are driven by kind of the value structure within the organization. So when we start to understand about, and those values, of course, come from our parents. Yeah. And those values are generally driven by what we believe to be right or wrong. But critically, and I think this is the most important part here, and this is kind of hopefully a little bit of an answer to the question we've got. And I'll put the kind of question as a ticker here. The most important thing is experience, because when I actually, as a white male, aging kind of male, when I seek different experiences, and I ask a few questions, and I basically start to understand about how different other people are, and I suddenly it's like, wow, that's amazing, because you guys have, of course, I may be a little bit more suspicious of you because you're a lady and I'm a man. I might be a bit more suspicious because you're from India and I'm from England. But actually, when I just get to know you, I mean, we're very good friends. I've met your daughter. You got a lovely husband. So, we obviously socialize, and it's an incredible experience for us. So, but I think we are definitely quite unique. So how has our relationship then developed where other relationships don't, where we would see, other nationalities as our kind of enemy? Some people see different nationalities as their enemy rather than their friends, right?
That's a beautiful question. And I love two words which you use, that is a judgment and the experience. We see world from the glasses which we are wearing. And if we
Oh,
see
we've got something in common.
glasses are tinted blue and your glasses is tinted green, and if we see white, we'll keep arguing that it's blue, and I'll say it's green and you will say it's blue, and we'll argue for the whole life because my perception is right, yours is right, but the actual truth is entirely different from your and my truth. So that's the thing. And if we see two twins are there, suppose the twins are there, they have same parents, same value, everything, still they have difference of opinion. Why? Because the way they see world, their glasses are different. Even everything in front of them is same. So definitely it is different. And if we talk about our relationship, your and mine, I see that you are in this like the learning and development industry for more than 3 decades, and you have like seen so many different nationalities, like all different kind of people, more than like 10, 20,000 people. From in my case, my dad was having transferable jobs, so like in within India, we were going to different places, and like living in different society, different culture. In India, there is a saying that every 100 kilometers, the culture changes. So I had that opportunity right from my birth. I have seen, like in India, I have lived more than 20 cities. I have lived. After marriage, I have gone to more than 25 countries. And I love to see people, love to meet different kind of people and talk to them. I think that has helped you and me to understand uh, that at the root, we all are same. Like I love the example which you gave to my daughter the other day, that if we take the blood, one drop of blood, and we mix it, it's exactly same. There is no difference inside. So I think this experience and exposure has helped us a lot to accept each other and understand. We can see beyond skin, actually, I would say that.
Yeah, it's so true, because I mean I do a little bit of work with Harvard University, and it's amazing. And one of the things that repeatedly comes back is that often when I'm kind of co-facilitating with those guys, they will basically they'll get the challenge coming back from the audience, particularly at quite early doors, where someone from a different culture. It could be from, I don't know, from Fiji. It could be from China. It could be from New Zealand. It could be wherever it's from, and it could be from from the UAE or Saudi Arabia. And we've done lots of work with those guys, but they'll then say things like, the audience will say things like, "Oh, you don't really understand our culture. We're very, very different. We're very different to Americans. Americans, have a very closed kind of view of the world. I'm quite geographically challenged as far as who they think they are. Don't really spend time sort of like asking questions about nationalities." And it's always the same kind of response from my friends at Harvard, and they always say, but actually, exactly as you said, they would say we are actually a lot more similar than we are different.
Yeah.
So let's focus on the similarities. And I have a spleen. You have a spleen, probably. I'm pretty sure you have a liver. I have a liver as well. We have two lungs. Our blood, if we take literally a dot of blood, the DNA, and we put them together, almost identical. So it's minor differences, but nevertheless, we choose then to go after those minor differences. And then, I'm going to use the word quite deliberately, but then we choose to hate that nationality, or we hate those kind of people, because I think you hit the nail on the head earlier. They're different to us. So for me, getting an experience of those people and talking to those people makes a massive difference. And I know it's a very well worn phrase, but I always talk about those, my kind of 4 things. So please forgive me again. But just again, basics. My dad taught me a long time ago. Just respect people. Nobody in my world has to earn my respect. Absolutely nobody. You can lose my respect, Neetu. I mean, it's ever so easy to do that. But no one has to earn my respect. I give it 100% free. Definitely just, listening to people, so hearing people, saying good morning, the basics really, and just remembering a little bit about who they are makes a massive difference. Those kind of 4 things are really, 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 really powerful. Yeah. Anyway,
I love what you said is so beautiful, and I want to add to that. When we say that we hate that nationality or we don't like certain nationality, I want to go back to our birth again, past in the time, because a lot of our answers are in past. When we go back and see me taking birth in India, I have no contribution in it. My parents decided because they were there, and God decided, okay, this soul has to take birth in India. So, what I do for myself whenever I feel threatened from anybody, whether it's because of the diversity or because a person is different, whatever, I do one exercise which I want to share here because it may definitely help people. I put myself in that person's place and say, I might have been there. I might have born in Uganda, and I might have the exactly same features. I would be wearing the same dress. Maybe I'm vegetarian, but I may be eating the cow's meat or anything I might be eating. The moment I think that, I consciously try not to hate anybody. Why? Because I know that I have not decided to be here. So I could be anywhere else. Maybe next birth, because we believe in next birth. Next birth, I'll be there or somewhere else. And I would have exactly behaved that the person is behaving. And this exercise has helped me a lot to accept all people from all cultures.
Yeah, it's so good. And I remember being with some police officers in Fiji. This is a long time ago, probably 18, 19 years ago. It was quite fascinating. And it was one I kind of fairly frequently run this activity we talk about customer service. And one of the things that we often talk about, particularly around customer service, is the idea that I was going to, let's play it now. So if I'm going to, let's imagine I'm going to invite myself for dinner then, Neetu, at your house tonight. So I'm going to come back, I'm going to swing by Dubai. I'm going to come over for dinner. What types of things might you do to prepare for me to come to dinner?
That's lovely. The first thing that will come in my mind is that whether you will like the food we eat or not. That's the first thing will come. So I will always look for the differences. Then the second question will come in my mind is that, okay, maybe he's flexible enough, so he may try to eat certain kind of food which we also eat, right? So that would be the second one. So first, definitely my subconscious mind will go for differences. Then it will try to look for similarities. Then I will try to find a midway somewhere, and that's what we have to do in companies as well. It's not my way or highway. Midway, that which will give you a different taste, but you will get the opportunity to try something new. At the same time, you like it also. So the same for
Yes,
the food, I like it.
it's true, because and you know, so let's imagine that I get to let's imagine I come to you, I'm at your front door. Yeah. So I'm knocking on, dung, dung, let me go, it's that way. They go, dung, 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 knocking on the front door. So you're probably going to come to the front door and you're going to greet me. What might you say when I first arrive?
I'll say namaste, please come. You know, I love this because I had a person, he's from Canada, and when he came home, in our home, we have a culture like most Indians have that we remove our shoes outside home. We don't bring it inside. So when I asked him, he was feeling a bit awkward that why do you like why I have to remove shoes? Then I said my daughter is young, so we I told that in our culture we remove shoes outside home, and he thought that my daughter will take his shoes and run away. And the same way, when I went to one of our friends and they were okay with like outside shoes bringing in home because it's their culture. I was so hesitant, like I was so uncomfortable doing that because that's how my upbringing is. But that's how it happens. Like we have little small cultural differences. And when we step out of it, it's a bit uncomfortable, but we have to explore it.
And so we're going to do a warm greeting. That's fantastic. And then we're coming to obviously going to come into your beautiful home, meet your, you know, fantastic husband and your beautiful daughter. And then so we're going to have dinner together. So what will you have prepared me for dinner? Where will the conversation go, do you think, Neetu? What will we talk about?
I think we will be talking about understanding each other more. I would like to know more about your family, what you like. And every time my brain is asking this question, it's trying to find something. Do we have similar experience somewhere? Because brain is trying to see, subconscious mind is entirely different. It's trying to figure out that, okay, where can we agree? Where is a midway for us?
So I think the more that we ask questions, and then at the end of the evening, I'm going to leave, and obviously I'm going to say, so right at the end, what kind of things might you what kind of things might you say to me as I'm departing? I'm going to say, oh, what an amazing evening, what a fantastic experience it was. So what will you say, do you think?
I will say I learned so much because I'm 100% sure whenever we meet somebody new, 100% we learn so many things. And that has many roles. The first thing is we learn. The second thing, it helps us to question our own belief system, which is the
Nice.
most difficult thing. We don't get the opportunity if I'm meeting same kind of people from my same group and community. I get this opportunity to question my own belief system if I meet somebody outside. And one more thing I love to mention here is that no matter how much we say that these people are not civilized or we are more intelligent than them and all, they have survived. Their ancestors have survived for more than 7 million years. That is more than 10,000 generations. Whatever part of the country, whosoever is alive right now, their ancestors have gone through drought, pandemic, diseases, scarcity of food, like volcano, dinosaur, everything they have gone through. That's how they have survived till now. This means they have something which we can still learn from them. So nobody is inferior or superior because we all have gone through, all our ancestors have gone through the same journey.
I completely agree. And you know what's really fascinating here is that I must have run that conversation at least 1,000 times, and I've run it in kind of Russia, and I've run it in China, and I've run it in Australia, New Zealand, you know, Fiji, all over the Middle Eastern countries. I've done it in the UK, multiple places in the UK. And
Yeah.
do you know what's really, well, it's not a surprise to me, but it might be a surprise to people listening to me, is that it's always the same answers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think human beings are, I'm trying to say here is human beings are incredible. We're extraordinary. You know, I'm extraordinary. I'm as extraordinary as you are. We're all extraordinary. And the more that we kind of like ask a few more questions, we're perhaps a little bit more courageous. And we just kind of go and sit with someone who's a little bit different to us. You know, try and connect. I think for me, it starts with being sincere. I mean, that's a huge thing. I think we genuinely, when I come into a conversation, I try to be very, I mean, I don't try, I'm very authentic, very sincere. I'm really, really caring. As I said, I lead with, everyone has my respect instantly, which I think is really important. It's also about listening to people. It's about, you know, asking them questions and not kind of trying to dominate the conversation, really. I think it's amazing. And there's such an incredible, and particularly living in somewhere as amazing as the United Arab Emirates, you come into contact with so many hundreds of different personalities, different cultures, different ideas, and that whole piece around being tolerant is so really, really important to me. Yeah.
That's right. And you use one fantastic word. I want everyone to pay attention to that: courage. Because come out of your comfort zone requires courage. Talking to somebody who's not from your nationality or different group requires a lot of courage. It requires zero courage to sit on the table where Indians are sitting for me. But me going to sit on a table where Emiratis or Filipinos are sitting, or Pakistani or African is sitting, it requires courage from my side. And only courageous people can go take the next step of inclusion. Diversity is easy. I always say it's very easy. It's a number game. Inclusion is the most challenging thing.
It is. I remember my whole world changed, particularly around Indian cuisine. One of my favorite stories. I was running an event for some very senior auditors, and the most senior of the auditors was an Indian gentleman, and he it was a successful event, and after the event, he said, "Oh, would you like to join us for dinner?" And I was like, "Oh, I'd love to come for dinner. That'd be amazing." I have to say, I was, of course, slightly anxious about that, because I was thinking, "Oh gosh," and my anxiousness was kind of like confirmed when we went to a restaurant that I wasn't familiar with. It was a big Indian restaurant. I've never been there before. I couldn't read the menu, which was slightly nervous. But I thought, well, I'm a kind of a guest, and then. Obviously, my host. There's lots of people there, maybe 20 or 30 people. Having dinner together, and my host was then very gracious and started ordering lots of food, and lots of very, very, very peculiar looking dishes started to arrive in front of me. Very different to English man's kind of curry. Very, 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 very different to what I was used to. So I was kind of sitting there again, incredibly thinking, "Oh no, this is what's going to happen now. I'm not sure what to do." I then started tasting these what for me were very peculiar dishes, and I started to taste them, and at that moment, I just kind of suddenly thought, I have been missing Indian cuisine. I've never even experienced. That was the first time, probably 15 years ago. I'd actually, I love Indian food, but that was the first time I'd really experienced real kind of Indian cuisine, and started eating it, and it was just amazing for me. And I just reflect on that moment where I'd been very nervous about going.
Yeah.
Was terrified when I couldn't read the menu. Was even more terrified when these very kind of alien-looking dishes were placed in front of me. But then I could have just made my excuses. I mean, half of me was saying maybe you should just go to McDonald's on the way home, or get pizza or whatever. I don't really. But I thought, no, I'm going to persevere. And the food was just amazing. And so I think that was a classic example where sometimes if you go after that experience, Neetu, and you try something a little bit different, it might be a little bit weird, a bit weird, a bit strange to you. But for me, it's really, really important. It's the same with language. It's the same with when you're meeting people for the first time. Just push yourself. Just get to know other people. Just be a bit more respectful. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, very beautiful.
That was an act of courage, because it requires courage to go place where you have never been, eating the food which you are not sure you will like it or not, and you can't even say no there. It requires a lot of courage to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's because we have this conversation, which is which I think is quite fascinating, which is really around, I suppose I often use the word reckless, because sometimes I feel that I am a little bit reckless, because I tend to be almost like fearless. So I jump into things, and I worry that I jump into things. I've just started a new sort of mentor group, and we've got that all that stuff's going to come out in the next few days and weeks, which is fantastic. And there's some beautiful people there from such diverse backgrounds as well, who have signed up to be part of the mentor program with us, which I think is amazing, really. But again, it's we've just kind of like gone into it. We're all learning so much, because we had our first session on Friday, and we were all just learning about each other, but B about how we were going to interact. But it's not. I don't know whether it starts with. I think definitely the right word. I've got my dear friend, Dr. Anthony, who's my psychologist, my beautiful psychologist friend. But he always corrects me and says, you're not reckless, Dots, you're just courageous. Maybe I should get back into my, maybe I should see myself as courageous as opposed to reckless.
Yes. All these things require a lot of courage. Courage is not only like taking a sword or a gun and like shooting or fighting. Courage is doing the small things. Yeah. And I want to
Yeah, I think
mention
it's
one personal
gone.
story here. Me and my husband, we are from different part of India. So we have diversity in our home itself. But the inclusion, like now I'm married for 13 years and inclusion has taken 13 years. Still, like we have our own differences and we work out that what is a midway where both of us can agree. And as you mentioned that until you would have experienced it, you would not have realized how good that food is. My daughter, she's very fond of non-Indian food. Her only condition when we go out is it should be non-Indian food. So I keep telling her, until you experience it, experience and experiment, you will never know if you like it or not like it. Even to say you don't like it, at least you have to experience it once. So I think you nailed that one by saying that courage is required and you have to experience it. These are the main pillars of inclusion.
Yeah, I think that's right. So guys, I'm almost out of time now, but I think I'm definitely my kind of top takeaway really from today's session is really just go after the experience. I think it'll often surprise you. What's the worst that can happen? Just go and really go after the experience. I think look for the similarities, not the differences. We are much more similar than we are different. So look for the similarities in other people around us, and don't be scared about them. And be really, really courageous. I think it's really, really important. Those. Remember when we're talking about culture, it's that kind of pyramid for me. So think about trying to move beyond the artifact. So that means when I'm talking about move beyond the artifact, don't just judge someone by their skin color or their sex or their age or the football team they support. Make sure that you're kind of moving beyond that, looking for exploring what their values are, looking at maybe what they believe to be right or wrong, and critically think about the experiences that they're bringing, and the broader you can have your experiences, I think that the greater a human being you become. One last question for the incredible Neetu. So Neetu, we have a time machine on the Weird Human podcast. So if I was going to put you in my time machine and take you back to meet the 18-year-old Neetu, what advice would you offer your younger self?
I would give three advice to her. The first is explore. Keep exploring because life has so many things to offer us, and we realize it only when we explore it. I'm more courageous now, I would say. If I would have explored more, I would have been more courageous. Second is experience. Until we experience, there is no point in judging it. So experience is the second most important thing, and keep evolving because we are human being, being. We are always continuous tense, not a perfect. There is no time when we say that okay, we are finished, God has created, we are done, nothing is changing in us. Every second we are evolving. Like this interview, we are both of us are evolving, and those who are listening, they are also evolving. So keep evolving, keep growing continuously. These three things I would have told myself.
Fantastic. Absolutely amazing. So that's pretty much it. We're out of time now. I'm quite sad the conversation has come to an end. I've really enjoyed talking to you, Neetu. So guys, as always, if you're listening to this session as a recording, please feel free to kind of ask your questions. I know that Neetu is incredibly supportive and will respond immediately as well. So if you have questions around inclusion, particularly inclusion, that was our question today. How do we get better at being more inclusive? Making sure that we're managing our talent, making sure that we see our talent as a broad spectrum as opposed to people in our kind of image. So if you'd like to ask us questions around this, if we can help you in any way about this, please just feel free to reach out and ask us. Neetu, thank you ever so much for having the conversation with you. Guys, take care. Speak to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.